there with you, but it's not, obviously.
Somebody else would order. Okay, I have 6 o'clock. I am going to be calling the Tuesday, December 8th Village Board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
President Jay Langfeld,
Here.
Trustee Lucius,
Here.
Trustee Tomkowski,
Here.
Trustee Kellboner,
Here.
Trustee Brocius,
Here.
Trustee Francois.
Here.
All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
And with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the village board on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes while the village board encourages input from residents. Do not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Do we have anybody for?
We do, yeah, we have a request for registration for public comment. Deborah Cutler has asked to speak. Deborah, can you just go ahead and state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Technically, I'm talking about an item that's on the agenda.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what the agenda says. Any items?
Okay. Well, my name is Deborah Cutler. My address is 2840 Finnis Street. And as I said, I wanted to talk about an item on the agenda. I was reading about the new potential apartment building in town, which looks great. And I'm all for senior age-restricted buildings. I totally get that. What I have a concern about is the location. Since the village is trying to bring in new commercial businesses to get people to come to the village to spend money, using that chunk of land on Bourbon Street seems very short-sighted. That would be a great area to have a restaurant or some shops so that people can enjoy the scenery of Xander Park while bringing money to our village. I would hope that you guys would consider approving the plan, but asking that it be in another location, because the more the merrier in town. That's about all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I do not have anyone else registered to speak here.
All right. So we will go.
May I speak, or did I need to register ahead of time?
No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead now, Amalia.
It's okay to speak?
Yes, yeah, just go ahead and announce yourself so that everyone else can know who you are, and then announce your address.
Fabulous, thank you. Hi, my name is Amalia Hicks. I'm an on camera, everybody. And I actually sent an email today to the board members. I think I'll just read that in case folks haven't gotten to their inboxes. I live on 2053 Glacier Circle. And what I am about to say is fairly similar to what Deborah just said. Okay, so yesterday morning I learned over Facebook that a 47-unit apartment complex has been proposed for the land next to the fire station on Bourbon Road. I'm concerned about this proposal for several reasons, but I'm primarily opposed to the location that is being put forward. The creek and boardwalk areas are arguably Cross Plains' most valuable real estate. We have as a community put great efforts into making the boardwalk area attractive to residents and visitors. New developments on both Main Street and Bourbon Road, in my opinion, should be reserved for single-story or at most two-story shops and restaurants that will draw residents, visitors, and businesses with views of the creek area and accessibility of the boardwalk. The proposed 4-story and 2-story buildings and their garages will block creekside views and rolling hillside views from both sides of town, as well as views from the boardwalk itself. I don't actually think it's attractive, like Deb does. I think it's actually kind of would look like kind of an eyesore that can never be removed, much like the apartments on Main Street that developers have failed to rent out. And then I had a question, which is, have these developers demonstrated an actual need for this many new apartments? And why do they have to build in this specific location? The fire station area of town has a significant amount of pedestrian and bike traffic. Many kids are drawn to the new playground in that area. The new portion of the Ice Age Trail crosses there, and the mountain biking trailhead is nearby. Adding another 50 to 100 cars to a street that already has speeding and traffic issues seems ill-advised. I'm also concerned with the urgency with which the developers are pushing the board to make a decision. Before any irrevocable decisions are made that affect the long-term future of this community, Cross Plains residents should be informed and allowed to speak their opinions on the subject. The speed with which this is being pushed forward seems suspect. Just because someone is proposing to develop something doesn't mean that the board has to roll over and say yes. The board is our only line of defense against developments that could jeopardize Cross Plains' long-term attractiveness to visitors and businesses. This is a beautiful community that has great potential. Let's think about the long game before we agree to give up our most valuable assets. What's at stake here is creekside, boardwalk adjacent, prime community real estate that we can never get back. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Is there anybody else out there that would like to speak on any topic, including those on the agenda? All right.
Excuse me. This is Vern Jesse. I'm assuming I'll have an opportunity to speak when you get to our agenda item. Is that correct?
That is correct, Vern.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. All right, we'll close public comment and go to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Oh, I should probably, I'm sorry, I should read that. Upon request of any trustee, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration under general business. Anybody have anything that they want to pull off?
Rather than doing that, can I just ask one question about one bill when we pull up bills?
No, you can. Go ahead.
The one question I had was, there was like $2,700 for riprap, and there'd been riprap the month before. Do you know what that's for?
I see that Jerry agrees on Zoom here. Jerry, are you able to answer that, or I don't know.
Yeah, I'm here. I only heard part of the question. I heard riprap and riprap, but then I didn't hear the rest.
He's asking on the bills, there's $2,700 for riprap, and there was that for last month. So can you explain why it's on this month's also?
Is it the exact same dollar amount?
No, it wasn't the same dollar amount, but there was a charge for riprap last month. I was just wondering what it was for.
For riprapping. I had the money available this year. We're actually going to install it next year, but both bills are legitimate bills.
Are they for the ammonia at the sewer plant to dispense the ammonia? Where's the riprap going, I guess, is the question.
Black Earth Creek, and there will be some used in Bear Park.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yeah, the Bear Park, that's probably that bridge or whatever. Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's part of it, yep.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Jerry.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say so moved. All right, we have a report from village officers. Village president, I want to thank some people I don't know if people have seen, but there was a short video made for Shop, local Shop Small. I want to thank Judy for taking lead on that and all the businesses that participated in that. And special thanks go to Jed Henry and his company Recon Productions, who actually filmed it, edited it, and actually produced it for us. I think it was a great video that they put together, and I'm hoping everybody had an opportunity to view it. So I want to thank all those people.
Just that they did do the drive-by Santa last weekend, and I think it was a huge success. I thought they said 550 pounds of food they got for the moms and so forth, so that was awesome. I know they went through, I thought, 500 bags of things for kids, and it was a great thing. So thanks to the Optimists for doing that and all the volunteers.
We'll go to other trustee reports. How about Sarah and Bill? Do you have a report at all?
We have Sarah.
Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I know we talked about the new playground last month, but just going past it, it is getting so much use, and it appears to be that people are social distancing and such. But I just know with the struggles that a lot of community children have been having with the COVID and not being able to be in school and such, like that could not have come at a better time. It's cold out there and people are out there with hats and mittens and using the new playground. So I just, again, want to applaud everybody who made that happen.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll go to the village administrator. Bill?
Only one thing to report here. Of course, there's a lot of things going on, and we remain busy into year-end here. But I wanted to report that we are working on a public engagement platform called through Text My Hub, and so this will be a method for which residents can report items, code enforcement items, complaints, etc., to the village via text message and in the future. It'll also allow for us to mass notify those that are signed up for notification. And then lastly, if a resident is interested in the information or obtaining information from our website, but does not want to cruise through our website, you text one word into this software will text back with no directly to it. So it's meant to be a public communication tool as more and more people are using their phones.
All right, thank you. All right, are there any other reports of staff any other staff that's going to report tonight?
I didn't have anyone sign up.
Okay. All right, we'll go to general business. The first item is regarding the preliminary plat proposal for retail at St. Francis Residential Development. We'll take A through B as individually. So do I have a motion to approve the restrictive covenants?
Yeah, I will motion to approve the restrictive covenants for the precinct crossing at St. Francis Residential Development.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, and I just want clarification, what restrictions, the ones we're doing are the ones that have been hopefully modified from the planning commission?
Yeah. So
I just want to clarify with Kevin, right?
Yes.
The ones that you're good with the change.
The ones that Bill provided today.
Okay, okay.
So just give me a minute here. I can bring everyone else online here up to date with sharing the proper file here. Okay, so I saw that there were some comments that my microphone was not working. Can we double check that to make sure that everyone can hear me clearly?
You sound better now, Bill.
Okay,
Yeah, I couldn't understand what you were saying for your updates.
okay, thank you. I'll move this mic closer to me. Okay, so up on your screen here, you should see a copy of the most recent restrictive covenants for Creek Crossing residential subdivision development. And so just to back up a little bit here, these documents and the preliminary plat was submitted to the village last month. It did go to the Plan Commission, and at that point, the Plan Commission had several comments in regards to the restricted covenant, the plat map, and the impact study. The Plan Commission provided those comments in addition to staff's comments back to the developer. And since then, the developer has had the opportunity to amend their documents. And so what you're seeing here are the revisions from yesterday's Plan Commission meeting. And what I'll do, there's not a lot of them, but what I'll do is I'll go through this document and then I can have the village board open it up for your discussion. So first up here, it's a simple correction, changing from 3 outlots to 4 outlots as shown on the plat map. It looks like there is some editing here, just removing moving the basement openings to a section down below. And then looks like the developer added some language here about downspouts and to control runoff, stating that downspouts shall not be discharged to driveways or streets directly. In 3.17, they added some language in regards to protecting the foundation walls and weatherproofing. They type out minimum opening elevation. And then they added language as suggested by the Plan Commission in regards to correcting the name for American Pit Bull Terriers, and adding language there about the applicability of village ordinances, particularly chickens and bees. So those 3 items were the 3 big items from the Plan Commission meeting. And I don't believe there are any other changes to the document.
Okay. Any other discussion or question from any board member?
We got a hand raised there by Sarah.
Okay, Sarah?
I support it. I just wonder how the American Pit Bull Terrier business is going to be enforced because, is that like a purebred American Pit Bull Terrier or mixed breed, or how is that going to be interpreted and enforced?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead,
Yeah. Good evening, board members. This is Vern Jesse. I'm legal counsel for the applicant. So we did include that provision in there. That was a desire of our governing group for the applicant. And it's enforced either through the developer while the developer still has an interest in the plat, or through any lot owner once the developer is not involved. To your question specifically, I assume if the animal is predominantly a pit bull, it would apply.
Does that answer your question, Sarah?
Not really, but I guess like in legalese, I suppose. I mean, I think it's something that's going to be open to a wide interpretation should there be an issue down the road.
Well, is the concern of a mixed breed?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of mixed breeds or unknowns or, oh, that my dog's not a pit bull, it's only partially a pit bull.
Well, there was, when we had discussion last night at the Plan Commission regarding this issue, it was noted that the village has a vicious dog ordinance. So if it doesn't fit squarely into this definition, I assume that would help.
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. I wonder if we should reference that or not, or if it doesn't really matter. Just rely on the ordinance then.
Yeah, so Sarah, this is Bill. Generally, if the restricted covenants does not cover it and we do have an ordinance to enforce it, the ordinance would apply.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a hand raised by Bill Brocious.
Okay, Bill?
So I've got a couple concerns here, but I want to kind of stay on the American Pit Bull Terrier issue. I don't understand the reasoning behind excluding a American Pit Bull Terrier from a residential area. The pit bulls, terriers, one, just have a really bad name because you have bad owners. You can have bad owners for a German Shepherd. You can have bad owners for a Golden Retriever. We have an ordinance in place for a vicious dog, and that should cover that. I am really opposed to singling out, excuse me, a particular breed into an area. Somebody wants to buy a home and they have a pit bull, and that pit bull is as cuddly as a teddy bear. I don't understand why you would restrict that animal, that homeowner, from having to make a choice between buying a house or having a pet dog. So that's one issue, and we can stop there. Pause there if you want to address that.
Yeah, well, Vern, you want to respond to that, please?
Sure. I think that, I'm sorry, Bill, I think is who was speaking. I think he's right on a certain level in that certainly some of those dogs are completely harmless, but I do think that they're a bit of a victim of their own reputation from some incidents that you hear about. Pit bulls, for better or for worse, are referenced in a lot of different subdivision restrictions, and that's why they're here. We're not going to die on this hill, obviously, but I do think it's something that the developer should have the prerogative to do.
Okay, that's fine. The second issue I had was on 3.09 on landscaping. Number 2, how very specific the developer is on types of trees to put on houses, and that it's a must. You must put in certain type of trees and whatnot. The problem I don't have a problem with starting a development that way. That's fine. But, I've lived in this same lot that I'm in right now for 30 years, and I have trees that are doing quite well, and I have trees that don't fit this that I can't get to grow. And it's based on the land and the soil, not the fact that I'm horrible at growing trees. So and 2 lots over from me, the neighbor must have different soil because they're able to grow a certain type of tree. So you're putting our owner at risk by saying, you have to have a certain type of tree, and if it doesn't live, then you have to replace it, and that will become an endless cost to that new homeowner if they can't grow a specific type of tree within their area. Does that make sense?
Hey, Bill, I think I don't read it that way. It says suggested trees. It doesn't say you shall plant one of these. It said they're just making some suggestion. I don't see where it says they have to be one of those choices. I think they're just suggesting a number of trees. So I guess I'm not really interpreting that the same way you are.
Well, here's what it says. Each lot owner shall install foundation plantings in the front yard of the lot owner. These plantings shall be placed at a minimum of 1 in every 3 feet along the entire width of the building with a goal of achieving year-round interest in color and texture in planting. So that was a shall. That wasn't and then you have, in addition, the lot owner shall plant in the front yard 1 shade or ornamental tree, and then there's suggested trees in that.
So I was just gonna say, the foundation plantings are not trees though, that'd be shrubs and the
No,
like.
but the next line is.
Right, and then following the reference to the one tree, Jay correctly pointed out that here are some suggested trees, and the sentence after that says, others will be considered by the control committee.
Right, but then it goes on saying that, maintenance in the yard area is responsible to the lot owner, and if the trees and shrubs shall die, they got to be removed by the lot owner, which makes sense. But then then it goes into saying they have to replace that, and I just see that as an expense to the landowner. But I mean, I just wanted to point that out. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
And then what about if somebody wanted to do a natural planting of a field flowers in their yard instead of grass? Is that identified in here?
I thought we had.
Yeah, there's some, I don't know where it is, but we had brought that up originally that we wanted to have some, I don't think you can do your whole lawn, but I think we have it where natural, native plants can be planted in gardens versus, instead of calling them weeds. I know we talked about, and I had read that somewhere, I just can't tell you exactly where that is.
Actually, it's just slightly down. I think it's in either E or F of that area right there, talking about rain gardens, and I think that area maybe. But all right, I mean, so if someone says, hey, my whole garden is going to be my backyard, as long as they maintain it, we're okay with that, right?
Well, I think there's an ordinance that you have to we have some governing ordinance on natural lawns. I can't quote it to you.
There's a permit process.
Yeah, there's a permit, yeah.
Okay, and then one more thing, what's right there, stop right there. For downspouts, you're really specific in your ordinances, and that's great. And this might be really kind of a minute issue, but and you talk about rain gardens and whatnot, but can downspouts go into rain barrels? I would assume so, but I don't know if you want to spell that out or not.
Well,
I would
go ahead, Herb.
I was going to say, I would certainly interpret it that way. The only prohibition on where they go is to driveways or streets.
Right,
So
yep,
that tells
yep,
me anywhere else would be fine, Bill.
Okay, all right, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions? All right, we're gonna do roll call votes on these so it's clear. Let's, roll call vote on this, please.
Trustee Kettleborg.
Yes.
Trustee Popkowski.
Yes.
Trustee Lucius.
Yes.
Trustee Brocius.
No.
Trustee Francois.
Yes.
President Langfeld.
Yes. All right, we're at B, discussion and possible action regarding the environmental checklist and assessment. Could I have a motion, please?
I will make the motion to Yes, approve the environmental checklist and assessment for creek crossing at St. Francis.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve the environmental checklist and assessment. It is open for discussion. Will take anybody, Bill or Sarah, do you have any comments or questions?
No, none here.
I do not, thank you.
Yep. Anybody in the room? Michael?
Well, I mean, my concern in reading this whole thing is I've been trying to wrap my head around the hydrology and how the water is going to run through this neighborhood. I've been just trying to figure it out, and reading this assessment, when you're boring down and you hit groundwater within 5 to 7 feet, it means it's not very far beneath the surface, and water is all over this place. I don't know if we're going to talk about it later on when we talk in D, when we talk about the whole entire plat in general, or if we want to talk about it now.
Well, what do you want to talk about? What part of it?
So,
Bill.
can I interject here? So I believe that this is, we need to back up a little bit here in that, again, this is the first time that this proposal has been seen by the village board. And Ron, I'm going to ask you to unmute. If you could talk a little bit about the floodplain in this section and the intent to raise the elevation on this development. And I think that that will set us up good for the discussion upcoming here.
Sure. We do have fairly shallow groundwater out in this area, but the area of the streets and homes are all going to be filled. So that will raise the basements above the groundwater elevation that we found. So that's really the simple approach. This plat is mostly fairly low land, but we will be, as I say, filling it. And we do not anticipate a problem with the groundwater. The floodway was defined by Montgomery and Associates, and that is mapped, and we are staying completely out of the floodplain.
And can I just add, what we just passed, if you look at those MOEs for each one, that is where the opening is, they have to be, so they're above the flood, I think floodplain or groundwater.
Protection elevation.
The what is it?
The high water mark.
Yeah, the high water mark, so.
For which flood? The 100-year flood, the 500-year flood?
I thought it was.
It's 2 feet above the 200-year flood.
Is that what that's what the MOE means? And so
Yes.
that means like what, like a window can't be
Garage door.
we can't get in. So you're planning a 2 feet clearance on a 200-year flood is what the whole plan is with it.
For those openings at least.
Right, no, I get it. Yeah, it just still scares me. There's a lot of water could be coming our way, and we're putting this development possibly right at the beginning of it.
Yeah. We were also asked to map the 500-year flood elevation, and that is shown right there on the map in the middle. And all of the minimum opening elevations will be above the 500-year flood. In fact, well above it. So all good concerns, and they are being taken into account.
All right, any other questions, Michael?
Yeah, I did have one. That was, so then I kind of sent an email to Bill earlier, and once the development is put in, or if it's put in, and you do all the filling, then does the floodplain mapping change because now you've changed the topography of the land?
That is correct. And Ron, you can jump in here, or Mike Slavny, I've seen you on here too. So the developer has filed and received a conditional letter of map revision by FEMA. That's based off of the current conditions and the proposed development. So the engineering, the hydrology has been put into it. And as a part of that Volmar process, the village adopted the floodplain ordinance amendment to the map for this section of Brewery Creek. Now keep in mind that currently a portion of the map revision that is in the village is this small portion here. And the whole property is currently yet in the township, so regulated by Dayton County. And so we are working with Dayton County on this, but once the development is constructed per the plans and specs or the proposal that was submitted to FEMA, at that time, once they certify it, FEMA then returns a letter of map revision, thereby changing the official flood map, and we would at that point amend our map to match that. Mike Slavny, did I miss anything there? I know you work in this more than I do.
I thought you did a fine job, Bill. I don't have anything to add, but perhaps Ron does.
Yeah, I would just like to say that we will not be doing any grading or filling within the floodway itself. So we would not be changing the flood elevations along Brewery Creek at all. And we're being very careful not to do that. All work will be beyond that mapped floodway.
So if I could just, if you see my cursor up there and the laser point, this dark line here coming through, that is the floodway.
Correct.
And then, so if you can imagine, this here is a 500-year flood. It's hard to see, but the 100-year flood is in here, and generally the 100-year flood is considered the flood fringe. And so once this project is constructed, you can see how closely the floodway and flood fringe travel along this section here, which means that the elevation changes quickly there from the creek to the elevation of the development in backyards.
Hey, Ron, I think part of what Michael's might be concerned about is going to increase the flooding downstream from this development. And it's my understanding that this development will hold back more water than how it is currently farm field. Is that still correct?
Yes, you are correct, Jay. We are planning to control all storm events through the 200-year, even though the ordinance only requires you to handle the 100-year. So we'll be handling the 200-year event and also releasing at a much lower rate than allowed during that event. So we're very aware of the flooding concerns, and we think this is part of the solution to helping slow water down.
Go ahead, Michael.
So you say you can handle the 200-year event. I'm not a hydrologist. What do you do to handle a 200-year event? What is incorporated into the development to do such a thing?
We will be building a wet pond at the southern portion of the Platte. And that pond, all the Platte water is routed to that pond, and it stores the water in those big events and releases it slowly. So that's, in simple terms, that's how it's done.
So that pond is rated for a 200-year event. So once it exceeds it, then it starts flowing over the top of it?
Yes, we do have a weir that it can flow over in greater events.
And isn't it true you also have some ditching that will help slow it down also?
Well, yeah, the streets, most of the streets within this plat are being designed and built with swales between the curb and the sidewalk. So that acts to slow water up in most events. In a 200-year event, it's all running down the streets and to the basin. But then the basin's there to hold it back.
Michael?
I know that you had issues getting to 90% infiltration, but you were eventually able to get there. What did you do to get up to that 90%? Like what was changed or added, or in general, how, what structures do infiltration? I mean, I imagine the swales do, but what did you increase to get to 90%?
Yeah, when we were getting into this, we weren't sure where we would land, but because the roadside swales are a big factor. Another big factor here is all downspouts to lawn areas. When you run the modeling for that, that's a big help. And we're also anticipating that we will be putting in a couple of small biobeds to get us to that last 2% that we needed. We were ending up around 88% infiltration, and we know the goal was 90. And so we'll have to actually build some biobeds to get there.
Biobed, what is that?
It is a shallow entrapment of water with engineered soil at the bottom and long rooted grasses and flowers to promote infiltration. And those are set up to handle the everyday small storms. That's where you get your infiltration.
Bill?
Can I have a quick comment?
Oh, Sarah?
Go ahead.
Did I hear you say, Ron, that creating this housing development will actually improve the stormwater runoff situation and flooding concerns that we have in the village of Cross Plains?
Yeah, you did hear that correctly.
And so my follow-up to that is, do you have evidence of housing developments improving floodwater conditions in other municipalities? Because that seems like a little bit of a stretch to me.
Yeah, well, let me first of all say that we have to model all of this, and the village looks at it, Carp C looks at it, and the DNR looks at it. So 3 different agencies will all be making sure it's done correctly. And then to your point about elsewhere, we worked on the Cedar Hill development in Cross Plains on Bourbon Road. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but that was, I think, the first subdivision in Cross Plains where we put in roadside swales.
Is that where you live, Bill? Is that Cedar Hill, or is it where I live? I live in Cedar Glen, I think.
Cedar Glen, yeah.
So yes, I'm familiar with this, and I know, yeah.
Yeah, and we worked with Roger Bannerman from the DNR to design that one. And the reason I bring that up is because then he monitored the culvert under KP that discharged the water from that plat. And it was pretty amazing how that wet pond and that infiltration area slowed it down quite a bit from when it was farm field. So it can be done, and let me just add that with the peak storms, the big storms, we have to model this to control the runoff as though this were prairie area, not farm field. So we're releasing far less than if it were farm field. You know, say a cornfield, for example, or a soybean field. So, you know, we have to trust the tools that we're given to use, this stormwater modeling, but it shows that it's being held back quite a bit less on these big storms.
All right, any other questions? All right, Michael.
When you're doing your modeling and the holding back of water, my question is, are you just modeling the neighborhood, or are you taking into account the field that's north of this one also, since that intermittent stream that used to be a wetland flows into the development? I mean, you're going to be having water coming from further up the valley as well.
We are, and we're not required to handle that water. We're only required to handle the plat water. So that's what we're doing. And that offsite water is really being passed through. So that part of it does not change.
Okay, so you get a 200-year flood, all that water above is still coming through and running through our 500-year flood. There isn't any enhanced mitigation in the development to handle that.
No. And that's why the village is looking at these 14 acres that's outlawed 4 on the east side of County P to do more stormwater mitigation for Brewery Creek. That outlawed 4 will be dedicated to the village for that purpose.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's, so now talking about outlot 4 and the 14 acres, it kind of makes me wonder as to why that mitigation isn't being put in place before this development is.
Because we've written a grant to help pay for that. And we're waiting to hear back from the grant.
Right, so we could,
I don't see how they're connected. I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I mean, what we're doing is looking at their plot. They shouldn't be responsible for water coming down the whole watershed. We have 14 acres that we're looking to do flood mitigation, but it's totally different than this development. They shouldn't be tied together at all.
okay, if you say so.
Well,
Well, they don't own it, we own it, right? We own the 14.
right, that's what, yeah, it's theirs now, you're gonna give it to us, but yeah, I don't understand that one.
I understand what Michael's saying. I think they are tied together.
It all,
Well, I guess my feeling is they have handled the water, and they're actually helping us by reducing the flow from the current property that they're developing into the creek that affects downstream. Part of the deal is they're giving us 14 acres upstream to also work on it. So I really don't see the connection. I think what we're concerned about, and I think what both of you are, is we don't want to make flooding any more of a problem than what it already is. And at least with the modeling and what we're being told is this is actually reducing the flow, so that is a positive. The 14 acres, if we get the grant, we'll be doing even more flood mitigation. So I think it's all positive, and I'm not sure why we would hold them up and not do some positive stuff right away while we wait for the grant. I don't get that. Kevin, go ahead.
So we could hear from a different voice, could Mike Slavny speak to this issue and confirm what Ron is saying, please?
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I am not a civil engineer, but I think I've reviewed somewhere around 1,000 different land divisions in a long career. So I pick things up, and what has most impressed me about the project is things that the village's consulting engineer, Brian Berquist, has confirmed from Ron's submitted analysis. And, you know, Brian doesn't have a dog in the fight, and engineers are licensed and are required to stick to the books in terms of their engineering analysis. So when Brian looked over Ron's calculations and his modeling and confirmed it, that was not a surprise to me. Because of the requirements that Cross Plains has adopted for stormwater management, and because of the oversight contributed by CARPC and Wisconsin DNR, when we get the thumbs up from all three review agencies, as someone who's not a civil engineer, I think that we have a confirmation ×3 that the requirements are met. I do know that row crops are big contributors to not only water quantity, but water quality. And so I would agree with the statement that, you know, at first I will say when I first heard it, sounded counterintuitive, that well-designed development can in fact reduce downstream flooding and improve water quality. And, you know, since I first heard that, I really haven't heard anything that contradicts that when an ordinance like the villages is followed.
All right, Bill.
We have a hand up by Bill Brochus.
All right, Bill.
So I am not a hydrologist either, but I do have a degree in geology and geography. And this is a great map that we're looking at on the screen, because it shows the contour lines coming from the north west part of the subdivision all the way down to the creek, the southwest part of that. Everything that Ron has said, I totally agree with. And looking at how that land slopes and how the roads are set up and built, and honestly, we just went through a 500-year flood, so we've got, you know, 498 more years to go. You know, I think, you know, I'm perfectly happy with the way this is laid out and with the way that this is contoured and with the way that they've thought about water management going forward in the future. So honestly, I'm very, very comfortable with this. Also looking at, there's another item on here that shows actually the geology, the soil type and whatnot underneath the land. And, you know, it's not all clay. There is a lot of pervious soil in here as well. So, you know, I think that's something to look at also, Michael, is not just, you know, the top layer of what you're looking at, but also the ground underneath it and how much can actually penetrate the ground and whatnot. So I'm very comfortable with this.
All right, I'm going to call the question this, and we're going to go to a vote. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Palmkowski.
No.
Trustee Kettlebolder.
Yes.
Lucius.
Yes.
Trustee Brochus.
Yes.
Trustee Francois.
No.
President Langfeld.
Yes. All right, we're going to see discussion and possible action regarding the impact study. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. I have a motion and a second to accept the impact study. Open up for discussion. We'll go with Sarah, Bill first. Do you have any questions or comments on the impact study?
Not for me.
No.
Okay. Here, Kevin?
Kevin Enthusiast here. Just wanted to point out, because I missed it before for the plan commission meeting last night, and we discussed this, but there is a roundabout proposed at the end of Laufenberg outside of this plat, but in the existing cul-de-sac as a traffic calming device. And so I had issues with two things: water, which we talked about ad nauseum just recently, but also about the traffic. And the number was changed from 98 to 90% of the people would go out to the east. That there's mailboxes that are likely going to be out on the east end, sort of pushing traffic into and out of the subdivision to the east. And this traffic calming device has all those things have given me not complete comfort, but a lot more comfort with regard to the transportation portion of the impact study.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Tucios?
Yes.
Trustee Gelward?
Yes.
Trustee Pomkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Francois?
Yes.
Trustee Brocious?
Yes.
President Langfeld?
Yes. All right, next up is a discussion and possible action on preliminary plat. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion regarding approval of the preliminary plat. To
I'll
approve.
second.
the preliminary plat.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second for approving the preliminary plat. Open up for discussion. We'll start with Sarah and Bill. Do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Not at first, no.
Okay. Kevin?
Yeah, I just want to sort of extend a little bit of what I just said. This subdivision, this development was not a slam dunk in my book. It had to answer those questions about stormwater. I guess I want to even say congratulations to a degree that the engineering firm was able to convince me, at least, that their modeling is such that there's to actually improve stormwater upstream from some disaster that we had in August of 2018. And actually, there have been subsequent issues. There was one the following spring. So I hope that really does work out as planned. And otherwise, I would be voting no today. That and then the traffic calming measures that I just mentioned are important. I think one area that I'd like them to work on still, though, is the connecting some of the trails up, or at least consider connecting a sidewalk or trail along County Highway P on the east side to connect up to the existing neighborhood over there. I'll leave it at that.
Michael?
Yeah, this is Michael. I have a question on the street cross sections from the engineering drawings. One of them, this is dealing with the Laufenberg and Conrad Drive cross section. It looks like you're putting in 2 feet of a gravel shoulder. Is that correct? It's going to be gravel between the ribbon curb and the swale?
Yes, that is correct. We'd like to use a ribbon curb so that stormwater on the streets flows into the swale at all points. And Jerry had a concern that as cars pull over to park, their tires are going to get beyond that ribbon curb and rut it up. So we proposed the solution of having a shoulder there to support that wheel traffic. And our detailed plan is to seed that when we're done so that we can grow a fescue there right up to the ribbon curb, but there'll be that gravel base underneath to support the tires.
Oh, okay. I was kind of wondering why that was there, and it was because of the soil. I heard what you said. Okay, second question is on that same drawing in D, the swale is 12 and a half feet wide. Does it have to be that wide, or why is it that wide? That's 12 and a half feet from side of road to beginning of sidewalk, which is quite a distance, and given the way the lots are going to be designed, I'm afraid that's going to put the sidewalk pretty far up into the front yards.
Yeah, the width of that swale comes into play with the culverts. Every driveway is going to need a culvert, and in order to get proper depth for that culvert, we needed that kind of width just to get a deeper swale. And that's with a 3-to-1 side slope, as noted. So in general, that swale will be a couple of feet deep.
Right, but the horizontal distance is required because of the culvert heading underneath the driveway with the 3-1 distancing.
Right.
It's also important to have a shallow enough slope so that the banks aren't too steep, so it's mowable. If you look on Gill's Way, Tilda Trail, the sidewalk on the inner circle there, that's what it's going to look like for the most part. I don't think the sidewalk's intruding on the houses any worse than anywhere else.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
This is involving the intermittent stream coming from the north field running into like outlot 1 and 2. That stream is above ground, but what happens when it goes under the road?
Yeah, there will be culverts under Conrad and Laufenberg to take that water under the road.
Okay, so there's going to be a culvert there because it kind of looks like it hits the corner of lot 77 also. I was kind of wondering what happened when it made it over to High Point for like south of Laufenberg.
Right. Yep, it discharges from that second culvert and then runs through a open swale down, all the way down to Brewery Creek. That does not go into the wet pond.
All the way down to, okay, right, because you're not retaining that water.
Correct.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, it looks like you guys are completely redoing the topography of this area, looking at the elevation lines on the one drawing and what you have to do to get looks like the sewer laterals down underneath the lines to move everything down towards Laufenberg. It's going to be a fair amount of soil movement. Is that correct?
Yeah, there will be. You are correct.
I mean, it just seems like an awful lot of work. And with the groundwater being so close and with the fluctuations that we've been having, seems like you're hitting it very hard.
Well, I don't know if you know the background.
Sorry.
But the Zanders, this is part of the Zander farm, are providing this chunk of land to the parish for development. So that's what we have to work with, and given the topography and the soil conditions, it needs to be filled and a lot of dirt moved.
Right, I understand that.
All right, we'll call the question, we'll do a roll call vote.
I just had one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, that's okay. There's no like hand raise thing. So the density of this development is kind of a concern to me, just not only just environmental, but as far as demand and long-term growth of the village. And I'm just wondering, like how much has to be done, would reducing the density of this development what would be the difference on the environmental impact?
Oh, Mike Slavny, you seem like the right guy to answer that.
So if we look at the whole plat design, if you could zoom out, Bill. So the density of the single family area is comparable to the other single family parts of the village, with a mixture of lot sizes, some that are smaller and some mostly around the perimeter of the development that are larger. And really, I think echo the range of single family lot sizes that we have in the village. And if the density were reduced, you would still need this kind of street pattern to get to all of the lots. And we'd have less rooftop area and fewer lots, but the percentage of lot coverage limit would be the same regardless of how many lots we have. So, we require that 50% of every lot be green space, and we would end up with approximately the same amount of green space and developed area, regardless of lot sizes, because as lots get bigger, so do houses and driveways and decks and other things that cause runoff. So I don't think the environmental benefits, if there are any, would be substantial. What reducing the density would do is significantly increase the price of getting into this subdivision. And from the outset, one objective of this development is to keep prices affordable.
Yeah, Sarah, this is Bill and Bill Chang, and just a little bit of background. I believe initially within the restricted covenants, the developer had proposed larger first floor square footage area. And so the plan commission did make the conscious effort to request, and developer did change the minimum square foot of the first floor down. And so Mike is correct in that, one of the objectives that we foresaw here from the very beginning was making sure that we're designing a plat that would make this more affordable compared to some of the market rate homes. Correct.
All right.
Jay, if I
Okay,
just want to add here, so in my report, and also want to restate that the preliminary plat map should be approved conditioned on 2 items here. One, with the U.S. Post Office to confirm the location of the mailboxes. And as a reminder, apparently the mailboxes are supposed to be on lot 19, lot 24, and lot 56. And then secondly, that the street and utility plans are at approximately 60% here. They will be proposed at 100% plans at the final plat approval stage. And so approval of the preliminary plans should also be conditioned on the village approving the final plans.
All right, can I have a motion to add that language to the original motion?
I think it's Sarah and Bill.
What's that?
I think it was Sarah and Bill that made that motion to begin with, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, we're doing, I need another motion.
Oh, then I'll make that motion, yes.
All right, do I have a second?
Just to be clear, could you repeat the motion? I think, Bill, what you said was a little bit different than what was in your memo. So I just wanted to, before I second, I'm willing to second, but I just want to make sure that we got that.
So let me just, I'm gonna second it. So we have the language to add the two conditions that Bill just said to the original motion. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
I'm asking to repeat the motion.
The motion, okay.
Want me to?
Yeah.
So, the motion would be to approve the preliminary plat, condition on one, the mailbox being, confirmed by, the mailbox locations being confirmed by the US Postal Service. And two, that, the village provide final approval for the street intersection plans.
All right, so that's what the motion is. Do I have any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
So this is on.
This is just a motion to put those two conditions on the original motion.
Correct. Trustee Palmkowski,
Yes.
trustee Lucis,
Yes.
trustee Kettlebaum,
Yes.
trustee Francois,
Yes.
trustee Grocius,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. Okay, now we're back to the original motion with this language now incorporated into it.
So I have two really quick questions, and I just apologize. So outlot 2, is that just green space or is that planned park?
That's where they are thinking of putting a small park with the, near the bike path there. Or the multi-purpose trail.
Correct. Yep,
Yes.
yep. That's what I was thinking. Okay, and then lot 56, that one that's like right below Laufenberg there, that really big lot down.
Yep,
Yep.
that's the planned development lot.
And what do we think?
Let me go to the plan map here. Just a minute.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yep, that lot right there. So Jay, when you're saying planned development, what are you talking about?
Well, that's where we, it wasn't totally decided. I believe we zoned it where it can be multi-family up to 16 units, I think we were talking about for zoning.
We zone that when it comes, right?
Yeah, so the way that we are approaching this, and Mike said, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but is to have it initially zoned as MRP to provide the highest level of density there. And then dependent on how the developer markets or takes us to market, then if they are wanting to go to a planned development, would ask for those flexibilities off the MR8.
All right.
That's correct, Bill, and any kind of multifamily project will have to go through its own individual development approval process through the Plan Commission and through the Village Board.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Bill?
It does. Thank you very much.
All right, Michael?
And that was just incorporated just to get a multi-family unit in there to mix up the neighborhood, the development, I'm assuming?
So I think the developer's original intent was to have some sort of development there other than single family. And so they wanted to be as flexible as they can. And I want to also mention that these 71 through 77, this is also proposed as a planned development. These are essentially duplexes or zero lot line duplexes here, townhomes.
Right, because at one time they had like condos or units with 3 units. It was something along, they're leaving that open spot open, and because it could be planned development, you can do whatever you want to in there, then or whoever decides to. Well, I will just say that, I mean, the engineering on this must be amazing, but it still frightens me that we are very close to a lot of these, the flood heights and with what happens and what'll probably be happening in the future and with groundwater fluctuation. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
All right. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Francois,
No.
trustee Brocius,
Yes.
trustee Palmkowski,
No.
trustee Lucius,
Yes.
trustee Kilgore,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. All right. Number 2, discussion and possible action regarding a conditional use permit for a small solar energy system to be located at 2006 Sylvia Pine Way, Rough Plains. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the conditional use permit for the small solar energy system located at 2006 Sylvia Pine Way.
Second.
I'll
All
second.
right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Sarah or Bill?
No.
All right, any discussion here? All right, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Brocius,
Yes.
trustee Palmkowski,
Yes.
trustee Lucius,
Yes.
trustee Kilgore,
Yes.
trustee Francois,
Yes.
and president Langfeld.
Yes. All right. Passes. Number 3, discussion and possible action regarding a conditional use permit for a small solar energy system located at 2007 Sylvia Pine Way, Cross Plains.
I make the motion to approve the small solar energy system used located on 2007 Sylvia Pine Way.
I second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. It's open up for discussion. Any comments, Bill, Sarah?
No.
Sarah's not here.
Okay.
No, no, sorry.
Okay, anything here? All right, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Kilgore,
Yes.
trustee Lucius,
Yes.
trustee Palmkowski,
Yes.
trustee Francois,
Yes.
trustee Brocius,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. All right, discussion and possible action regarding a conditional use permit for small solar energy system to be located at 1850 London Drive, Cross Plains.
I motion to approve the conditional use permit for the small solar energy system located at 1805 Ludden Drive.
I
It's
second.
1850.
Oh,
1850.
yeah, 1850.
That too.
Sorry.
I'll
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was
Seconded, Judy?
1850.
All right, so I have a motion and a second, open for discussion. Bill, Sarah,
No.
No.
anybody here?
All right, record, it's latitude graphics.
Right.
Graphics, right, that's my type.
On number 4, it's latitude, not edge, so,
That's why you get the address.
got it.
All right,
I did
roll
say
call vote, please.
Trustee Lucius,
Yes.
trustee Kilgore,
Yes.
trustee Palmkowski,
Yes.
trustee Brocius,
Yes.
and trustee Francois,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. All right, number 5, discussion and possible action regarding petition for a zoning map amendment for the property at 1601 Bourbon Road from expired plan unit development to a planned development district general development plan. I would, on this one, if you want, we can do the presentation. Otherwise, what I would recommend that we accept the recommended motion from the plan commission. So we're not reworking everything. Bill?
I just want to quickly add a comment that, I believe a public comment earlier, I stated that this development was a 4-story project. I'll make sure that everyone knows that this is a 2-building, the primary building being a 3-story, and then the secondary building being a 2-story.
But we're not approving any of those plans in that. We're just approving the zoning, right?
We're planning the zoning based off of the recommendation from the planning commission for this specific general development plan. And if the village board would like me to, I can definitely read what that motion was.
Is this, so Bill, can you clarify the zoning is for a 4-story building? Like specifically as part of,
Yeah, let me take a step back here. So this this property currently has an expired PUD. Give me a minute here and I can show you what we're talking about here. So when this property was annexed in 2001, I believe, this was the general development plan that was approved at that time. And as you can see, it's one building with parking spaces in the back and the front. That again has since expired. What the developer has proposed as part of this project or for this project is, and I'll read it directly here so I don't get it wrong. Give me a minute. So the brief description of the project would be a 47-unit multifamily development contained in 2 buildings. Building number 1, oriented near Urban Road, will contain 40 units of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments as age restricted 55 plus affordable housing with underground parking. Building 2 will contain 7 3-bedroom townhouse units oriented along the back part of the lot near the north property line. 20% of the units will have a maximum rent based on 30% county medium income limits, community fitness room on site. And so that is the project description that is within the application itself. In regards to the general development plan and the intent, what the developer has proposed is a MR16 based district here with the following items as flexibilities. So lot area to be less than 2,500 square feet per unit. Allowing for multifamily building size to exceed 8 units in one building. Approving the multifamily density to exceed 16 units per acre. Approving to develop more than one building on a single lot. Allowing for the apartment building to exceed the 35 feet maximum height. And then approving the reduction of parking counts for both buildings as outlined in the village ordinance under commercial. Under residential, multi-residential 16. And so those are the flexibilities from the MR16 multi-residential district that they're asking for. And that would be what the village board is approving as part of this development.
so can I ask why, I just want to understand better why, how the plan commission came to the position that it is recommending to the village board to exceed the 35 feet height limit that's currently in place.
That's or approved.
So, yeah, I mean, that was proposed. I don't think that the plan commission discussed the high limit on this. I know that the developers in proposing the 2 buildings here did so in order to keep the height limit down and in order to meet the density and the number of units that are that they required for their development for their redevelopment. great. Again, their renderings here show 4 stories, but again, it is indeed 3 stories for the primary building here.
So this did not go through the plan commission first?
It did, yes.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering is,
Okay, Sarah, I think we gotta kind of back up a little bit, just so you have a little background. What we have is a developer that would like to go through WIDA and get tax credits.
right, and they have a
to help.
deadline for that, yeah.
Yeah, so the deadline is December 11th. And what they need from us is to at least identify that the lot would be zoned for their project.
That zoning does not have to go through the plan commission first, correct?
Well, it did go through, yeah, that's what the plan commission did, was change the zoning. We did not talk about any of the actual construction of the project. But what we did was, the selling point for the project was in their description, as you can see, is to go towards senior housing.
Sure.
So we made it part of the zoning, the condition of the zoning, that it would be senior housing. But we, the plan commission, did not get into all the little details of the building and the plot and how they're laid out and the parking and all that. That wasn't the task. The task is just the zoning of it. And I think you're bringing up, which a lot of other people, there's a lot of questions that are unanswered right now. But just so you understand, the focus of the plan commission was very narrow in approving a zoning for that lot, so they could let WIDA know that there is a lot that is zoned for their project.
And
I think
if they miss the December 11th deadline, then when is the next time WIDA opens up?
it's a yearly process. Every year they would open up, and someone else, I don't know if Jim is out there but it's generally at this time where every year they have a new fund, group of funds available for projects.
Okay, thank you.
So Jim Rogers is on virtually here, and so is Alf McConnell and Bob Feller. If you would like to address any questions to them, just so you know.
Okay. Kevin, you wanted to make a comment?
I just wanted to point out, when I looked at that 35, Sarah, it was the 3-story building would be somewhere in the 30 to 33 foot range is my guess, with a flat roof. That if we were to exceed 35 feet, it was not going to be 50 feet or 52, as the 4-story building is proposed here with an angled roof. So I justified that in discussions yesterday at zoning, or in the plan commission, or even before, myself, I should say, before I went to the plan commission meeting, thinking that we'd be pretty close to 35 in the end, but probably have to exceed it slightly for various reasons.
So I guess unless we want to redo the motion, there was a motion that was recommended from the plan commission that I think would be a good starting point.
I'll make the motion.
All right, Bill, do you have that by chance?
No.
Yeah, just let me pull it up here quickly.
Yeah. Guess it was.
Because we have to make sure we say it right.
Okay, so the motion that was approved or moved by the plan commission at yesterday's meeting was made by trustee Kettleboulder and then second by Commissioner Case to recommend approval of the petition to rezone the property at 1601 Bourbon Road from expired planned unit development to a planned development district, general development plan for a 47 unit multifamily development contained in 2 buildings. Building number 1, oriented near Bourbon Road, will contain 40 units of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments as age restricted 55 plus affordable housing with underground parking. Building 2 will contain 7 3-bedroom townhouse units oriented along the back part of the lot near the north property line. 20% of the units will have maximum rents based on the 30% county median income limits. Community fitness room on site. And the plan commission passed it 7-0.
So
And when will the community hearing happen?
The public hearing did happen yesterday at the plan commission.
And were there public comments or?
Yes, there were so one a letter or email was submitted by Mike Rossler in support of the project. And then Amalia Hicks did speak against the project.
And she also spoke tonight. And Deb Cutler spoke, opposing it tonight.
Well, I know I received several comments from citizens that are opposed to this, in particular the height of it. And so I wonder how much the community input has been involved by what seems to be a rushed process to meet the developer's desire for a December 11th deadline, which seems to be something that will repeat again and be offered to them again in 2021. So I guess I would have a strong recommendation that we not feel the need to concede to this rush within a week's notice, so that community input can more appropriately be gathered.
So I want to state that the zoning amendment process does require notices, one to the newspaper for 2 weeks prior to the public hearing. And the process does require that we send out notice letters to all the adjoining properties within 100 feet of the property. And so that is our normal procedure for zoning map amendments. And we did do that.
Okay.
And Sarah, I just want, while the vote was 7-0 at Plan Commission last night, it was a very lengthy discussion, and you are not alone on your concerns of how fast this has been processed. I mean, that was heavily discussed, and there were a number, including myself, that are would be in your camp on that. I think what eventually happened was a compromise made to make sure what was being proposed was actually going to happen. And then some of the details would be obviously worked out as the project moved forward. But I am with you that I too feel that this has not had enough time. I don't think we've even vetted it enough. I mean, I tried to do a crash reading on WIDA, and I have a little bit experience working with these projects when I worked for the city of Madison. They're very complex. I brought up the same issue. I'm not sure this is the best use for this lot, but I just wanted to let you know what came out was kind of a compromise from the group. And I'm going to let other members speak that were at the commission because it was a very lengthy discussion. Kevin?
Yeah, I referred back to the comprehensive plan, which strongly supports housing downtown, smaller lot sizes, high quality multifamily housing, support senior housing. Those are direct words from page 89 of the comprehensive plan amendment. And so that's why that's why I'm generally in favor of this. Location's not perfect, but I don't think we've ever had anything in the village of Cross Plains where the location fit perfectly. We constantly have limitations on our park space or on our creek or our hillsides, old buildings, streets, sewer, etc. We cram a lot into a relatively small village, and so we are constantly up against limitations in space. And I don't like the timing either. But I think it's important here, and I hope Bill will address this momentarily, that we talk about the process, because tonight we are here to look at a zoning map amendment. And I think we all need to know what that means. What we're voting on is this map amendment, and what the future steps would be before shovel hit dirt. And so hopefully somebody can address that so everybody's very clear about that important set of steps.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is hear from the trustees, and then Bill will go, and then we'll open it up for the developers so they have an opportunity to address some of the concerns or comments made by members. So, Michael, do you have any comments or questions that you'd like answered? Okay, you don't have to do it now. I want to just make sure, Judy.
As I said, they've had it for sale for a long time. I know people have said they'd like restaurants, they like other things in there. I thought Mike Ressler's letter was good to point out like how much, like we have Tano's building downtown that's still open. We do have things still open on Main Street that we could do more restaurants if people wanted to come in, or shops or so forth. But at the moment, there's nobody wanting to do one. And with who knows with the economy, what's going to happen. So that was one of the reasons I supported it. And the other reason I did is because I believe in the 55 and older. And that's the only reason that I was voting for, is because of the 55. And that's what we were holding our feet to, that it has to be the 55 and older restriction.
All right, Bill?
So I have quite a few issues with this, actually. I agree with Judy that having a 55 and older affordable housing within the village is important. I also agree with the people that spoke earlier, the residents from the village that said this is not the right place for it. If you look at the comprehensive plan that Trustee Thuzius talked about, there's that whole north side of Bourbon Road is was planned for businesses and or village buildings. There was no plan in there for housing whatsoever on the north side of Bourbon Road. There's plenty of housing, but plenty of apartment housing on the south side of Bourbon Road. I do not like how quickly this has come along. I understand what the developers, what kind of position they're in, but as a village trustee, we had been put in this position before of having to hurry and do something because it was in the best interest of the developer. We have to be the best interest of the village. That is our responsibility. So if we feel that as a village trustee that this is not the right time, we have not vetted this well enough, I don't think in good conscience we can approve it. The fact that the planning commission approved this last night was great. That's an entirely different body of people than what's on this as trustees. Even though 3 of you are on that, it's still a different body. You guys are now putting on your trustee hat, not your planning hat. So I don't like how quickly this has come along. I don't think 55 housing should be on the north side of the Bourbon Road. Any other place in the village I think would be fine. I think business should go there. If they wanted to put a business in there, I'd be happy with that, but that's not their role. So honestly, I am not for this. Plus, I've had conversations with other residents that are not for this either at this point. Now, if we have time to vet this a lot better, and we get more input from our residents, then I'd be more comfortable with that. But right now, we have zero comfort with this. So I apologize to the developers, but that's where I feel it.
All right, thank you, Bill. Sarah, do you want to say anything more?
Yeah, I just want to say, I actually, at first blush, my first reaction was, this is awesome. Like, I think 55 and plus residents is great. And if I were 55 plus and looking for, I mean, I even think the location is decent for, as was brought up with the proximity to the senior center, and even just the joy that can come from being across from the park and how that can improve quality of life. What I am strongly against is the height and the speed. I don't like the idea of creating an apartment corridor around blocking our beautiful creek. I think even residents there could help draw businesses. I think that, you know, Bourbon Road needs a facelift big time. The building looks beautiful. It's just too tall, too big for me, and going way too fast. And I think anything over 2 stories blocking the rest of the community's view to the creek, which is, I think someone mentioned earlier, our greatest asset. That's what I'm strongly opposed to.
All right, thank you. Bill, why don't you give your comments and then we'll go to the developer.
Yeah, actually, I think I'm gonna defer to Mike Slab need to talk about the general development plan process and the specific implementation plan process, as those are within one process but 2 different approvals.
That's fine.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, our plan development process is designed to give the village board the opportunity to create unique zoning districts that may or may not be desirable. And first and foremost, the step that we are on, the general development plan step, is the step of creating that unique zoning district. And we require the applicant to identify the base district, which is the MR16 multifamily district, and then to identify the flexibilities that are needed from those baseline standards. And that list that Bill read at the beginning of this item constitute those flexibilities. So, you know, our intent is to have something documented as to what was approved or denied. The general development plan is the 3rd step in the process. The final step is the implementation plan, and that's where the details of the building and the site are finalized. It's a site plan kind of process. So approval of the building's look, the building's material, the exact arrangement of the building on the site, the landscaping, any amenities that are on the exterior of the building are all approved at that time. But the fundamental issues, which really are pertinent to the GDP, is this the right zoning district for this property? Is the multifamily use appropriate? Are the flexibilities that are being requested, including height, which has been mentioned by several of you, and density and use, being senior housing for the apartment building and unage restricted affordable housing for the townhouse units, is this the right use in the right location? I do want to mention that as a zoning map amendment, the village board has a lot of latitude. You can't be prejudiced in your decision, but Otherwise, you have an awful lot of latitude in terms of, is it the right time for a zoning map amendment? Has the process enabled enough public input? Are there conflicts potentially with other potential uses on this property? And I believe that the comments that I've heard to this point about this matter, including the public testimony that's been offered, have all been in bounds in terms of not being prejudicial, but addressing issues pertinent to the GDP that are appropriate for the village board to be contemplating. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions about the process, but I wanted to assure the board of the latitude that you do have, and the fact that all of the reasons for and against that I've heard tonight and I heard last night, I believe are appropriate for the consideration of a zoning map amendment in general.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mike on the process? All right, Bill, would you like to add anything else to this topic?
No, just, it's quickly here, just some background, and I know that there hasn't been a lot of time and processing that, and I wanted to just shed some light in that. Some of you know the property that we are talking about here had previously been, a large part of that property had been in the environmental corridor. And part of the reason for the short timeline here is that that environmental corridor was amended by CARP-C halfway through the summer here. And so I do want to say that was part of the reason. And so that everyone else here understands that also.
All right, I'd like to turn it over to the developer. It could be John or Al or both of you. Just let us know which one would like to speak.
Al, if you want to go, or you want me to? I'll start. Yeah, this is Jim Rogers from the development team. Thank you all again. This is a big decision for the village. And it was, it was a big decision for us to also kind of move forward with certainly the unknown of whether we could get zoning approved. So, we've committed time and effort here and funds to get this to this point. And, we're prepared to move on if we don't get a positive approval. But in terms of the height, I can't speak to the height issue. I mean, we have certain economics that have to drive the development. We have to have a certain density on the site that makes sense to put multifamily there. I mean, these projects are expensive to build, and they need to have a certain economies of scale in order to sort of work. And to put a smaller size building on there, you might be able to get a mom and pop shop maybe locally that could do that. But even the village, I think, has experienced, the three other larger multifamily proposals of recent times. Those are the economies of scale that are needed these days. So that's just a fact of how these deals are put together. So we need to be at the 3 stories, and frankly, we would have liked to have done 4. But we tried to at least follow that restriction, and so we'll be a little bit over the 35 feet. How much, I'm not sure. Bob's on the call. Maybe he can weigh in here in a moment or two and speak to that, but it probably doesn't really matter if we're a few feet over that. The issue is we're blocking the views from the creek is the issue. In terms of the fact that we've identified multifamily for this site, we think it's a highest and best use for the site at this point in time. You know, we'll each have our own opinion on whether that's a true statement or not. But in terms of what's needed for the village, you know, we've commissioned our own independent market study and clearly shows that affordable senior is needed there. I think the village board members have all sort of agree amongst themselves that senior affordable is needed. And these deals take time to put together. Even at this lightning speed, we won't be breaking ground till May of 2022, and it won't be opening up our doors until May of 2023. So these deals there's a long lead time before from concept to when we actually get in the ground. So there's a large lead time. And then in terms of the timing issues, Bill spoke to that a little bit as well. I had been in contact with the seller on this over a year ago, and then we were aware that it was tied up with another group, and then they walked away because of the environmental corridor issue. And then that was resolved. I don't recall the exact date, but I think we got an email from Bill in late September. And then at that point, we engaged in trying to get the land under contract, and that took a little bit of a while to interface with Greg and get that finalized. But in terms of there wasn't any sort of malintent or trying to force our hand or anything. It was just simply this is when the land became available, and now we have this WIDA deadline that we have to follow. So we're just trying to check all the boxes that we need to check to move this forward. And you know, if the village needs to take more time, they need to take more time. But in terms of how the WIDA tax credit process works, they set the rules every year. They typically set them for a 2-year period, but they do sometimes make changes. So, you know, we feel that this site has at least a good chance of getting an award of credit. Not a great chance, but it's got a good chance. Typically those credit applications, and these are development groups throughout the state that are applying for these credits. So you're competing with other development groups in Milwaukee and Green Bay and Appleton and La Crosse and wherever throughout the state. These folks are trying to garner these credits. And they do drive home some economic stimulus to the local economy. So they are beneficial to the local economy. And if you look to other cities, like for instance, even Dane County or the city of Madison, and I'm not suggesting that Cross Plains would do this, but as evidence to kind of the bandwidth of why this is a need or a want that cities chase. The city has established affordable housing fund, which hopes to then sort of secure or garner more affordable projects within the city of Madison to benefit the residents, but also provides economic stimulus. But my main point here is that, you know, we have an opportunity this year to possibly win an award of credits. I rate our chances at 25 to 33%. Usually it's 1 in 3 or 1 in 4. But WIDA might change the rules for next year, and we might not have any chance at all to win an award of credit, which might then mean that our interest in the site would be, we would just move on to a different site. But we understand that, you know, we wish we had more time to provide information to the village. And we certainly can as we move forward if we're able to get approval tonight. But there was no sort of ill intent in terms of the timing issues. It just is what it was, I guess. So with that, if Alf is on, I'll turn it over to Alf or Bob if you want to make a comment.
Yes, Jim. Thank you. 3 of the trustees were in our concept meeting, at least, or the plan commission last night. So I apologize if some of this is repetitive. By way of background, Jim Rogers was born and raised in Madison, lives in Madison. So he's been in this area for a number of decades. He went to undergraduate and graduate school at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And so did I. I used to live in Madison. Matter of fact, I used to live 15 minutes from this site. I was in the Middleton, west end of Lake Mendota area. Concerning timing, we thought that zoning was in place when we first worked to put this land under contract. It was then discovered that the zoning, the PUD had expired, and then we had to start the process over, and that was learned, oh gosh, about 4 or 5 weeks ago when we started working with Bill and Mike. We figured out that there was a way that we could go through the process prior to the December 11th deadline for the annual WIDA application. So we had the concept meeting on November 23rd and the Plan Commission last night, and now the Village Board tonight. It seems to me the decision really isn't that complicated. It's an opportunity to for us to bring in $12 million investment into the village of Cross Plains to do a very nice, classy property. And as previously mentioned tonight, that we had one project win the Pillars of the Industry Award for best property of its kind in the nation. And that was the first time IDA, Illinois Housing Development Authority, ever had one of their properties selected that received national recognition. We had a project in Wisconsin that was a finalist in a national development competition for best property of its kind in the nation. So we do like quality. Given Jim's and my many decades in the real estate industry, we understand the ABCs of development, which include what is the highest and best use of a parcel of land. And we've determined that this multifamily project is the highest and best use of this parcel of land. I've developed commercial, I've developed multi-tenant warehousing, and I've concentrated in multifamily housing and specifically affordable housing for the last 20 plus years. If I thought I could develop a commercial property on this site, I would say I'd be indifferent. Whatever you want to zone it, that would be fine with me. But it only makes sense for the development that we have designed here. And Jim is absolutely correct. 2 stories, we couldn't develop, the numbers wouldn't work. 3-story, I might mention another project that Jim and I are developing in Madison that was approved by the city of Madison and received tax credits approved by WIDA and village funding, and city funding and so forth, is a 4-story building, senior property, very similar to this. This property is a bit small. Normally we wouldn't do a project of this size, 47 units. The senior campus that we've developed in Caledonia, Wisconsin, which is Racine County, is several hundred units. It's the minimum size building is 73 units, and it goes up to roughly 100 units per building. We do need a simple 1-line, 2-line letter to proceed with our application with WIDA that says that we have designated zoning appropriate for what we plan to develop. But if you decide not to, we will shake hands and go another way, because in the next year, we will be looking at other sites that are larger, that make more economic sense, it's unlikely that we'd come back to the village because of the size of the project. Somebody, one of the citizens in the public comments mentioned about 100 cars a day coming in and out of this property. This is, as seniors age in place, they tend to give up their cars. I did an analysis in one of our 73 unit buildings on the senior campus in Caledonia. There's 79 residents. In other words, just slightly more than one resident per apartment. As people age, unfortunately, the men die first. There are probably 95% women. There are a few men and a few married couples. And of that, of those 79 residents, there's only 49 cars. So in a property like this might be 35, 40 cars, not 100 cars. And being mostly seniors, they don't drive much. They don't go out. They stay on the property, stay in their apartments or in the common areas of the apartment building, which will include a community room and a fitness room. And they like to walk. The senior center is close by, so that's a nice amenity. And we plan on talking with the senior center and seeing if we can work out some sort of joint venture where we'd buy a van together to so that the seniors could that did give up their cars, the seniors generally of Cross Plains that gave up their cars would be able to use the van for various organized functions. Let's see here. Concerning, getting the approval for the concept of this 47 units is the first step. Before we can ever break ground, we will be submitting a stormwater management plan to the village, as well as then it'll go to the state for approval. So there will be many professionals looking at the design of this development before it even breaks ground. In addition to the stormwater management plan, the plans will be reviewed by the village and by the state before a building permit is even issued. So there's substantial work to be done between the approval of the zoning and breaking ground. And it's going to require substantial capital, well in excess of $200,000 before we can even break ground. This site was designated as a PUD at one time. It did expire, so residential has been planned for this parcel at one time. If a business were located, I think it was maybe Mike Ressler that had mentioned if a restaurant or something would be constructed on the site, the taxes would be substantially less than what would happen with this project. It would be an opportunity for the senior residents of the village to give up their single family homes where they tend to be isolated in. We've heard of stories of seniors who fall down in their single family home. Maybe their spouse is deceased, they're alone. They lay there for a day or two or three, a broken hip. Maybe they die there, or maybe they go to a hospital and end up dying there. It's a terrible situation for seniors to be isolated in their single-family homes. Here, they're in a group setting where they have their neighbors, senior neighbors, keeping an eye on them. It can provide a lot of security and comfort, and of course, they would enjoy the various amenities of the property, the creek, the local businesses, and so forth. Are there any questions that we can answer for you folks?
Bill, Sarah, do you have any questions so far?
I don't have questions. I have no objection to the need for senior housing and the benefits of it. I just am against.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just trying to, he asked if there were any questions, and I just want to make sure if there are,
No.
they get asked. Bill?
No, I don't have any questions at this time.
All right, I guess you can continue.
This is Bob Feller with Kenothi Bruce. I guess I'd like to speak up if I could for a moment. As the architect of the project, we showed the images that we did to demonstrate that this development team is really committed to a quality project. This could easily be something that is designed to bare bones, minimal amenities. The building could be very simple in form, you know, cut rate materials, but it's not. What's being proposed are, you know, 40 to 50% masonry on the exterior of the building, individual balconies for each unit, in-unit washers and dryers, personal high efficiency heating and cooling systems per unit. All of this built within a green built standard. So just high quality, energy efficient, made for the future. The development team has proven that they are committed to hanging on to most of their properties. I think there's only one that has been sold in the past. This is a long-term commitment on their part. If height is the major concern here, a 3-story building, flat roof can be designed to be at 35 or less feet. I guess we just wanted to make sure we had the opportunity to provide a sloped roof, something that might work hand in hand with the vernacular of the neighborhood and complement it. But if that is the sticking point, I do know that we can design an attractive flat roof building appropriate for the area with these rich materials and great amenities that would be at that 35 or potentially less. And just the variety. I mean, the intention of using 2 buildings was done intentionally. It offers up a variety of unit types. It speaks to different lifestyles, accessibility. It helps to organize the site such that the parking lot can be inboard to the site, centralized, so that it's not visible, while still respecting the setbacks, providing attractive front yards, allowing for landscaping that would be a complement. I think this building, this development could really be a great neighbor for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments you'd like to make? All right. Is there any more discussion or comments from the board? I'll start with Bill.
I have just one question, and it's very premature, but I believe, Bob, you brought it up that you needed $250,000 just to break ground. This is within the TID 3 district within the village. Are you expecting or not expecting to ask for assistance from the TID?
We'd keep it open.
Okay. Just asking just asking.
Well, so, I mean, I'm not trying to give you a flippant response. I mean, the reality is that, you know, the affordable housing budget is put together with a couple different pots of money. And depending on those other pots of money, how much is we can secure, that would drive that discussion on any sort of, you know, TIF funding.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that.
We just don't know. I mean, frankly, we just don't know at this moment.
Okay.
But I'll just say one other thing. It wasn't contemplated. It wasn't contemplated within the development budget at this moment.
Okay. Appreciate. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Sarah?
Nothing.
Anybody in the room here? All right, I guess, Michael, no?
Just what I said before, that I think it's being rushed, it's quick, and just the other considerations that have been listed.
Okay. So we will,
I started writing down that motion, but you lost me. I started writing.
if you want, if you go to their application, what we did, if you go down, let me just find it again. Let me just, all right, if you go to page PDF 203, that brief description of project is what you used, right?
Correct.
So that was on their application, so it was zoning with this condition, basically.
So, okay, I will make a motion.
Bring your mic on, Judy.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I think didn't we have a motion already or no?
He read it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
You read it, but nobody really said it, so that was.
Well, if you don't want to repeat it, just say
Okay.
the motion that was recommended by the plan commission.
Okay,
Then we don't have to rebuild it again.
thank you.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to approve the recommendation from the plan commission last night.
All right. So just so everybody knows what it is. Oh, I need a second. All right. I have a motion and a second. Bill, before we have any more discussion or vote, can you read it so it's very clear to everybody what that is?
Yes, yep, I can read it again. So there was a motion made by trustee Kettleboulder and second by Commissioner Case to recommend approval of the petition to rezone the property located at 1601 Bourbon Road from expired planned unit development to a planned development district general development plan for a 47-unit multifamily development contained in 2 buildings. Building number 1, oriented near Bourbon Road, will contain 40 units of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments as age restricted, 55 plus affordable housing with underground parking. Building 2 will contain 7 3-bedroom townhouse units oriented along the back part of the lot near the north property line. 20% of the units will have maximum rents based on the 30% county median income limits, community fitness room on site.
All right. So that is the motion. Is there any more discussion? Okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, just in response to some of the comments and what I heard via email from some of the constituents, which I appreciate the getting the information. I just wanted to address a couple of issues before I state my vote. Agreed, location's not perfect, but the need is great for senior housing and for affordable housing. Things that we've been trying to get at and have been unable to. And so to me, it's worth trying to push a little bit on the housing. And it's not a terrible spot. It's just not ideal because it's not zoned for that and not planned for that in the comp plan. I get it. It makes financial sense. If the value of this in the end turns out to be something akin to the other apartment buildings, they're in the $4 to $6 million range. for value. It makes some financial sense. Height of the building, it is next to the fire station, which has got to be pushing 30 or 35 feet. And so to give you a sense of that, it's 2 stories, but it's a big building, it's a tall roof. And even if we do approve the zoning map today, they admitted, the developers admitted that a 25 to 33% chance they get the funding. If they don't get it, well, we can look at other options. And if they do get it, we still get several kicks of the can at molding what this project would look like. So that's why we'll vote in favor of it.
I just want to disagree a little bit with you on the molding of it. Is we're pretty detailed on what the zoning is going to say. The zoning is going to say the 40 units and the 7 units. So it's not like we can.
I didn't argue the zoning. The zoning was not malleable. I said we can push on other aspects of it. I'm thinking about things like sidewalks and addressing water issues, potential water issues. Maybe even the pushing on the height a little bit. We're going to allow over 35, but if they can make it 37 instead of 40, then I think we can push on those.
Right. I just thought maybe you were thinking we could go down to a 2-story. We still would have an opportunity to do that.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
Only within the zone.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Tusius.
Yes.
Trustee Palmikowski.
No.
Trustee Kettlebolder.
Yes.
Trustee Francois.
No.
Trustee Brosius.
No.
President Langfeld.
No.
Motion fails.
I would like the developers to, come back next year, give us some time to work on this. I like the idea, I like the plan, it's just too soon.
And I certainly appreciate you spending the time the last 2 nights filling us in on this project. All right.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Future agenda items. Anything? All right. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Brosius.
Yes.
Trustee Francois.
I'm sorry. I need it repeated.
It's a motion to go into closed session.
Oh, yes.
Pursuant
Yes.
to 1985 sub 1 sub C.
Yes.
Trustee Kettlebolder.
Yes.
Trustee Palmikowski.
Yes.
Trustee Tusius.
Yes.
And President Langfeld.
Yes.
So Sarah and Bill, I want to break you out into a breakout session here. So you'll see that, and then
Okay.
I will pause the recording and we will go into closed session.
Sounds good.
I have to go make sure the doors are closed.
Does she know she has to?
Maybe she bailed.
Yeah. Oh, there she is. All right, we're back into regular session. Okay. We don't need to take any action, Bill, just so you know, you and I will sit down. I have a pretty good idea where the board is coming from.
Yeah.
You and I will sit down, we'll share ideas, see if we can come up with something that both of us agree. We'll bring it back to the board. We probably won't start January 1st. It'll probably be in, maybe February 1st.
Sure. No, that's
So that's what we're I feel pretty comfortable in knowing where the board stands on these issues, so.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds fair, yeah.
Were you thinking about getting out of the village before then?
No, my lease goes until June. So that's part of this is the lease is coming up, and we have opportunities in the winter to take advantage of the market being lower.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Bye.
Good luck, Bill, and thanks for joining, Sarah and
Thank
Bill.
you. Take care.
Thank you. Yep, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.